airspace, and then also VFR versus IFR, so visual flight rules versus instrument flight rules. So the FAA publishes this book called the Pilot Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge that you can get online. ASA equivalents, there's the company ASA makes equivalents, but so different types of airspace. So if you listen to the symbol thing, we kind of talked about airspace somewhat in that, but so class Alpha airspace is going to be above 10,000 feet. Class Bravo airspace is going to be really busy airspace. It's going to be like an upside down wedding case. Class Charlie airspace, slightly still busy airspace. So Bravo airspace examples is like Atlanta. Charlie airspace is going to be like Birmingham. And then Delta, you're going to have a towered airport, Tuscaloosa. And then you have Class Echo, still controlled. And then you have Class Golf, which is uncontrolled. So kind of talking about distance that we have to maintain from clouds. So we, as VFR pilots, so as a private pilot, you can only fly in VFR conditions. So you cannot fly in instrument conditions. So what that means is you can't fly in clouds or too close to clouds as well. And that's what we're going to kind of talk about now. So in the Pilot Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge, there's this ginormous chart on what you have to be the distances from clouds and the flight visibility that you have to have to be able to fly VFR. But I kind of use this method a lot of time to teach it. It's just this video I found online, and it does a good job of putting all this text into a way you can kind of remember it a little bit better. So Class Alpha airspace, you cannot fly VFR in. Class Bravo airspace, it's always going to be 3 statute miles visibility, and then you just got to maintain clear clouds. So as long as you're not in clouds, you're fine. All right. The other ones you got there. So the remaining airspaces, we got Charlie, Delta, Echo, and Golf. So Echo is easier than Golf. So Echo airspace. So if you want to, you can draw on a sheet of paper. You can draw a big old E, and you can also draw a big old G. And then you can kind of visualize this in your head as well. So above 10,000 feet MSL for both Echo and Golf airspace, the rule is 5-111. So what this means is you got to have 5 statute miles visibility, 1,000 above, 1,000 below, and 1 mile horizontally. So below 10,000 feet MSL, for Class Echo airspace, the rule is 3-152. So 3 statute miles visibility, 1,000 above, 500 below, 2,000 horizontally from the clouds. Charlie and Delta are also this 3-152 rule. So most airspace falls under this 3-152 rule. As long as you're 10,000 feet MSL and you maintain this 3-152, you're not wrong. So Class Golf, so above 10,000 feet, it's the 5-111s, but below it, it gets a little bit more complicated. At nighttime, it's going to be 3-152s, but then during the day, there's this 1,200 feet AGL split, so 1,200 feet above ground. So if you're above 1,200 feet above the ground, then it's 1-152s during the day. And then if you're below 1,200 feet AGL, it's 1 clear of clouds. There's not really many situations where, you're below 1,200 feet AGL and you're less than 10,000 feet MSL. And you're greater than 10,000 feet MSL. So there's really not situations where, you could be below 1,200 but above 10,000 feet MSL. But there might be some situations in higher elevations where you're above 1,200 feet AGL, but you also happen to be above 10,000 feet MSL. So you just want to be careful that does not apply. But out here in the southeast United States, that's not a very big issue. So the key takeaway, 3-152s is what most airspace is. If it's above 10,000 feet MSL, it's going to be 5-152s. And Class Golf is a little bit more complicated, and you just want to study up on that, either using this chart, or you can look at the chart in the Pilot Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge, or any other similarly published chart. So that is for VFR distances from clouds. And so how you can tell how far you're away from clouds is kind of complicated. So you just want to make sure that you're not too close. And, if it looks like 500 feet to you, call it 500 feet, and just be careful while you're flying so you don't ever get into clouds, because that can be dangerous situations since you're not trained for that. So the type of equipment that you have to have and entry requirements and certificates that you have to operate in different airspaces is Class Alpha airspace. You got to have an ATC clearance. It's got to be an IFR equipped aircraft, and you have an instrument rating. So that does not apply to any private pilot students. Class Bravo airspace, you've got to have an ATC clearance, you've got to have 2-way radio communication, and you've got to have a transponder with altitude reporting capability. So transponder with mode C, which we have in our airplanes. You've got to have a private pilot certificate, or you can operate it if you have an endorsement as a student pilot, but generally we're not going to fly in Class Bravo airspace since Atlanta's kind of too far away. Class Charlie airspace, you got to have 2-way radio communication. You got to have a 2-way radio and transponder with mode C. You don't have to have any minimum pilot certificate. Class Delta, two-way radio communication, and you got to have a two-way radio, and you need no specific pilot certificate. Class Echo, you don't need any entry requirements for VFR, and then there's no equipment, and then there's no certificate. Class Golf is going to be none, and then none and none. So Echo, it's controlled, but you don't really recognize it as controlled. You don't have to talk to anybody. So it's, quasi-controlled almost. Whereas Bravo, Charlie, and Delta, they are controlled, and you've got to make sure you're talking to the proper people in those airspaces.